But before that, we've got a short picture to show what we have done. Let's look at it together.
The truth was not clear then. The Labour Party was spreading the fear of mass unemployment. You'll find it in election addresses like Maurice Edelman's. Hugh Dalton and many others said the Tories would slash the social services and lead the country into war. Let me remind you of what has happened since that fateful October. The socialists are for controls and austerity. But the Conservative policy is incentive and expansion. The socialist prescription is to cut down and restrict. The Conservatives work for freedom and plenty. Britain strong and free was our election cry in 1951. Strength has come to us over the last 4 years because of our recovery. And freedom has come in many ways. Into the wastepaper basket went identity cards, building licenses, repairs licenses, development charges, most wartime controls, the act to nationalize steel, dozens of forms farmers had to fill up, and the ration book.
This is David Dimbleby talking to Mr. Wilson an hour or so ago.
Early this morning, you refused to concede that the election was lost. Do you now accept that the chance of your being Prime Minister by this evening is very remote?
Since we spoke, the Conservatives have now gained enough seats to make it extremely likely that they will have an overall, absolutely pushed around by publicity people and so on, that he would have come through very much earlier and much more clearly. As an opponent in the election, I didn't very much like his style on many questions, and you know, I spoke out very clearly about his attempt to drag Sterling into the campaign. But still, the campaign is over now.
Prime Minister, a man who would in fact act in an anti-British way, which I think is what you said about him.
I said, I referred that to the campaign only, that he was doing that in order to win votes. That's a different thing. But assuming he takes over, he will have the strongest economic position any Prime Minister's taken over in living memory. I said that in my broadcast the other evening, that I was fighting it against the strongest economic position. He will take over the strongest economic position.
Do you think the Conservative claim and their bid they made in the last 3 days towards the housewives may have something behind it? Do you think that the housewives perhaps didn't vote on traditional patterns?
I don't think it was the bid in the last 3 days particularly, but of course they did exploit the cost of living question. They gave the impression that they would stop the rises in the cost of living. Well, now they maybe have a chance to show whether they can or not.
So, what regrets do you have about leaving office?
Oh, the big one is the fact that we can't now, presumably we can't now do everything we wanted to do to use this economic strength to continue and intensify and develop and accelerate what we're doing in, for example, the social services and in other ways.
Do you think that policies that you've put through will be undone under the new government?
That must be a matter for them.
Do you think
from all they've said, you would think so.
Yes, which policies?
Well, take development areas for a start, which is the big problem of unemployment. The major unemployment problem today is still the problem of development areas. They've made it clear they would dismantle many of those policies. Others too.
But in the area of things left undone.
But other parts of the world, chiefly the colored world, are going to be dismayed. And a lot of that is due to Enoch Powell, who has really put this election on the map around the world.
Do you pay tribute to Mr. Heath's leadership in this campaign?
If he has won it, which I take it you are assuming he has.
Well, Dr. Butler and Dr. Mackenzie tell us he has, but I'm not so sure yet.
Oh, jolly good. Well, then, if that is so, that is the best tribute to win.
Mr. Powell, are you going to, in the new Parliament, continue your fascinating alliance with the extreme left, particularly with people like Michael Foot, on issues like the common market, on trade unions, on Vietnam and the House of Lords and so on? One, if I may say so, one of the oddest alliances in British politics.
Well, if it were an alliance, it would be odd. But what happens is simply that on some subjects we agree, not always for the same reasons, and then we are heard agreeing. On other subjects we disagree, and then we are heard disagreeing. I don't call that an alliance. That's journalese. Enjoy myself.
May we assume that even if you were to be...
I shouldn't assume anything. The assumptions generally turn out to be very wide of the mark.
I will rephrase my question. Is it possible that if in the flush of a Conservative victory, if there is one, that Mr. Heath should invite you to serve in a Conservative cabinet, you would accept?
Yes. The old trap of a hypothetical question. In vain is the net spread in the sight of a bird. And you know, Robin, I'm too old a bird for that.
It wasn't meant as a trap. I was just doing my best, but I have to leave you now, Mr. Powell.
Yes, all right. Goodbye.
Thank you, and sleep well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On May 1st, we are releasing the beta version of Acceptable Risk, the world's first market-smart risk calculator to help you find out instantly what risks are or are not acceptable from a bottom-line business perspective. Will Project X be just another skeleton in the closet, something your company comes to regret, or will it be a golden skeleton? A complex case is IBM's sale of technology to World War II Germany for use in identifying certain populations. This was very bad, of course, but no one can deny they were profitable, and although the issue remains a skeleton in the closet, in retrospect, it is quite clearly golden. Now, you may have heard the joke. How many Americans does it take to screw in a light bulb? 12. 1 to climb the ladder and 11 to file the lawsuit. What about Indians? Oh, just 1. We would, of course, never wish to imply that an Indian life is worth more or less than another. I myself believe in the sanctity of all life. But the market has its own logic, and if we're willing to live with it, we must make the most of the choices it makes. Because if there's one thing that we at Dow want you to remember today, it's that the only good skeleton is a gold skeleton. Ooh!
Lay down to die.
That's the thing about cults. What's shocking to outsiders seems normal to insiders. Is this why unfettered greed seemed normal to bankers? And if so, who was the cult leader here? This is Milton Friedman. We were told that he was the world's most influential economist.
Did government play a role in this? Very little, only by keeping the road clear for human greed and self-interest to promote the welfare of the consumer.
In this book, Friedman used the word freedom 374 times. But by freedom, he didn't mean this. He meant this: the freedom of corporations to profit, no matter the risk to people, and without interference from government.
Dr. Milton Friedman, a scientist, a careful thinker, and a great teacher.
The hero of freedom, Milton Friedman.
I sought out Dr. Friedman and had the great pleasure and privilege of meeting him and his economist wife, Rose. And we've all become friends, and now I call him Milton.
Okay, so we should go in there.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you.
Uncle Milty, I call.
These guys belong to free market think tanks, which have spent billions of corporate dollars trying to make us all believe that if we just let corporations do what they want, everything will work out great.
We're kind of on a quest. We want to fix the world, and we want to know how to do it.
Private property, rule of law, and a market unrestricted by government regulation and control.
When we see companies demonized, we should work against that. When we see the free market system castigated, we must work against that.
More wealth leads to greater efficiency and greater innovation, and basically all good things.
Wealth, money,
privatization,
wealth, money,
individualist freedom,
privatization,
free markets, ownership,
and a great deal of money.
Capitalism and freedom.
Wealth and prosperity.
We were getting the message, and so were millions of others. These guys spread Friedman's free market gospel by any means that they can, like speaking to Congress, viral videos, and guest spots on Sunday morning talk shows. They claim to have destroyed regulation around housing, banking, energy, and the environment. They agreed to meet pretty much anyone with a camera, even us.
You see there's a blue screen behind you.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to be put in front of?
I think that the images are of men, just the prosperity of free men, following what their hearts and desires lead them to.
I think you can find that. Sounds good. What would you say to people who harp on the Bhopal catastrophe or other tragedies?
Bhopal is an interesting example, but that facility had created educational opportunities for an Indian emerging technocratic class. It had created value added and tax base for the community, and something like 3,000 people died. That's a tragedy, but there are always risks of going into the future.
We were confused. As kids, we learned that it was bad to do something bad. And if you did something good, you got a reward. Yet when we announced Dow would do something great, the market gave Dow a spanking. So how could we get companies to do the right thing? We needed to change the rules of the market. But that meant regulation, and regulation meant government. The only problem was, government was drinking Friedman's free market Kool-Aid.
Free markets are working miracle after miracle of economic growth.
Open markets and rule-based trade are the best engines we know of.
But when the government stepped back and let the free enterprise system do its work, then the better we did, the more robust our economy grew, the better I did, and the better my business grew.
For the last 30 years, the leaders of most powerful countries did whatever the free marketeers recommended. And what they recommended was simple.
The solution is not to have government to intervene or regulate in some way.
Please welcome S.K. Wolf.
First, I need to say how wonderful it is to see on all the faces here today the childlike exuberance of a great industry in full flower. And why not? Without oil, at least 4 billion people would starve, and starving would become the new black. Who first had the idea to use the oil of a recently living animal to light his or her house? Even today, Shetland Islanders cut the heads off their puffins and put wicks in the stumps to make candles. We at Exxon firmly believe that a free market will, if left to its own devices, always find solutions to the dilemmas that humanity faces. What you see here is an artist's rendition of an advanced large-scale plant. The Vivolium feedstock is renewable and unprecious and responds to the need of a shrinking market with greater supply. The dance of capital appears in full flower.
And now we begin the tribute video to Reggie Watts.
Worked in maintenance for a while, moved up to maintenance 2, started doing cleanup, toxic spill cleanup.
After I heard from the doctor that I was going to die, I felt like I had something to live for.
Can you switch this off?
Could we describe?
Please switch it off.
I think I'd like to be a candle. There's just so many uses for a candle. I mean, you know, like if you want something romantic, like that'd be nice to know. I was a candle on table, you know, when people, when they first met each other on a date. I think that would be great. I'd love that. That'd be a hoot.
This is a funerary observance. I mean, this guy died.
Switch this off before
This
I
man
do.
died.
It's people. Really is.
Now, thank you.
Hey.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Now.
This house right here, it used to be on this side.
For decades, the government had ignored scientists' warnings and let industry carve up the wetlands that protected New Orleans from storms.
About 1 million acres of land has disappeared since 1930. It was done canal by canal, oil field by oil field, port by port, parcel by parcel. It was, if you will, death by 1,000 cuts. The governing mindset culturally and legally was, if there's an impact, we'll deal with it later. And in some ways, it's, you know, this is a preview of...
For Friedman and his followers, disaster was not just a chance to get rich, but an opportunity to push through all kinds of unpopular policies, like privatizing public schools, shutting down public hospitals, and kicking people out of their homes.
The disaster for us started after the storm. When people found out that you were going to be marooned in a strange foreign city wanting to come home, and the government was going to take your home away.
This was hours before the storm. When storms happen everywhere else, people get a chance to go back home. This home to us. Why they gonna take away our pride and joy? They don't know what people going through.
The whole city that sort of washed away.
The federal government came up with a program to dismantle public housing and privatize it. And that's what we're doing. And so you've got to develop a nice community so that the poor have an opportunity to live in an environment where people work, that they're part of the American dream. And you'll get a number of folks that are not used to the type of lifestyle that we all live, where trash is thrown on the ground or cursing off of the balcony.
The idea really is to provide role models, essentially, for poor folks, right?
Absolutely.
Public housing in the city of New Orleans. You know, there's lots of information out there, there's lots of misinformation out there, you know, and, but I have a fundamental belief that truth and lie cannot stay in the same place at the same time. Reminds me of a story I once heard. They're running after lie. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you had was a well-dressed lie being chased by naked truth.
It's quite a tough act to follow, nothing like that to make you feel a bit naked, eh? Dear friends, it is with the greatest joy that I announce to you today a brand new Department of Housing and Urban Development. Everything is going to change about the way we work, and the change is going to start right here today in New Orleans. We won't make that error again. This afternoon, we will begin to reopen all public housing projects in New Orleans and allow these Americans to be part of their city once again. But opening doors, ladies and gentlemen, we will rebuild not just New Orleans, we will rebuild the American dream. Please come join us at the Lafitte Housing Complex.
Very uplifting. This has been a big problem. A lot of people want to come home and they have been unable to do so. So I thought it was a very positive message.
Well, very encouraging. And what's really encouraging in particular is not only getting people back home and helping them rebuild, but the recognition that we have to deal with Mother Nature, and that Exxon is going to make some significant...
Can say whatever they'd like, but you work for them, don't you, as a deputy secretary?
That's right.
Now that you've been discovered, do you want to explain to me why you did it? I mean, if you're trying to make a point, why don't you come over here and tell me why you did this? All right? All right, man. I'll call you in a few minutes. But it is a hoax, a massive hoax perpetrated today. You just pulled off a heck of a hoax.
Thank you. I mean, I would say that, you know, HUD is pulling off a hoax by pretending that tearing down affordable housing is what's going to solve it. I mean, that's what they've been doing until now. This is a time when all of these people are clamoring to get back in. They want to get back into their housing, and they deserve to be there. It's great the news.
Hano, the Housing Authority of New Orleans, says this is simply a cruel, cruel joke, trying to give people some kind of fake hope that they were going to be able to move back.
It is terribly sad that someone would perpetuate such a cruel hoax and play on the fears and anxieties of families who are desperate to return to their homes.
We just had it confirmed from HUD that he's not actually an employee of HUD. This is all a big hoax, this whole ceremony here, this whole press conference.
But I guess it's just to call their hand. It's just to call their hand. I respect this host because maybe it'll take a host like this to bring them out here to see what we going through. So it's a host what it be, a host is what we got. And I ain't mad. I'm going to eat me some barbecue.
And I think what you guys exposed is the fact that HUD could do these great things
if they wanted to. Secondly, you got the attention of the residents, so now they're going to begin to ask, well, why aren't you doing these things? And number three, you're creating a controversy to feed off, to organize, and to build a struggle to the next level. So in my opinion, everything y'all did was excellent.
We'll see what others are saying. First question from Rachel Birmingham, please.
Theresa May has said that we have lessons to learn after the Grenfell Tower disaster. Why haven't these lessons already been learnt?
Many questions to be answered, and that is why she has called, the Prime Minister has called for a public inquiry. Now, we know that Parliament is not sitting at the moment, but MPs did meet today in the Grand Committee room with the Housing Minister and indeed the Fire Authorities Minister. And right across the House, people raise those questions about cladding, about alarms, about previous events that have taken place, and ask those questions, which no doubt we will look at today. And that is why we must have that full inquiry.
Sophie Khan acted as lawyer for the residents group of the Lakanal House fire in 2009, in which 6 people died. She's here in the studio. Good evening, Sophie Khan. When you saw that fire last night, it must have brought back awful memories.
It did, and questions have to be asked as to how, after a very detailed inquest and narrative verdicts and a Rule 43 report to the government, why this could happen again.
Is the right way a public inquiry?
That's not the right way. The right way is inquests. The families have a right to participate, they have a right to cross-examine, they have the right to put questions to all the experts. They are even able to get their own experts if the coroner gives permission. The coroner is independent of the government. In a public inquiry, it is very much government-led.
And I'm right in saying there's absolutely no way that any resident, any family member can take part and ask questions in a public inquiry?
Not in a public inquiry. There's a very limited rules in public inquiries. It is very much government-led, government-controlled, government outcome.
Do you think this was avoidable?
This was avoidable, 100%, because the sprinklers, even though it wouldn't have saved the building, I think it would have saved the individuals inside the building. It would have given them time to get out. The building, I believe, would have perished, but the individuals wouldn't have perished. And this is not just after the Lakanal House. There is studies here.
Is it your experience that, by and large, residents and residents association are not listened to?
They're not listened to, but also the fire assessments. We have to look at the fire assessments, because here there is a fire issue as well. It's not just the council we need to look at. What were the fire brigade doing? The refurbishments have been done. What tests did they do on the building?
But these are questions, as you say, that the residents will not be able to ask anyone in the public inquiry. In your view, is this a kind of unintended consequence of the public inquiry, or do you think it's an absolutely worked out position that if the government goes for a public inquiry and not an inquest, they will be not subject to the same scrutiny?
Yes, that is correct. Because in an inquest, they lose control of what a jury verdict will do. And the juries will come out with narrative verdicts which may be very difficult for the government to
But you can
hear.
only have one or another, you can't have both.
You can't have both, you can only have one or the other.
So what would you be urging residents to do right now, to kick up a fuss, to change?
Yes. They should really be demanding an inquest from the government to say this is not the right way, we don't want a public inquiry, we want an inquest. And I'm very concerned as to why Mrs May came out so quickly to say public inquiry. What is there that she knows that needs to be hidden?